Okay, we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am Massy, and with me, as always on Mondays, is Meph.
Hello.
And tonight we are looking at more Chaos 6010. The gift that just keeps on giving even though you don't want it to. Last time we looked at character classes, we looked at some character abilities. We didn't look too closely at any of these. A lot of these are very minor things. For instance, like spend 1 point of spiritual influence, spend 1 point of frenzy, 1 point of frenzy. It goes on like that. A lot of things where you have to spend frenzy or character points, or sorry, cool points. And cool points are XP, remember? So you have to permanently spend XP to use your abilities. That's cool.
Can we take a look at that drawing that was on there again?
Yeah. 1 second.
Because that was pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. Of the monk kicking that guy in the face.
Yeah. Also, that guy has a gun.
He does.
He brought a gun to a kicking fight.
Yep.
And that didn't go well for him.
Well, generally you want to shoot people before they get into kicking range if you have a gun.
I mean, but everybody knows that feet are the superior weapon.
I mean, some people believe that.
Especially on Twitch.
Yeah. So, the chapter on skills. Combat spacecrafts. I don't know what that means.
It's a joke?
I guess. I don't know if she meant spacecrafts,
No.
or if it was literal, like they're playing craps in space and it's a fight for some reason.
No. He's literally trying to make a joke.
That's probably what it is.
Wordplay thing that didn't quite land.
Yeah, it didn't quite land. Pretty much describes the opening quote for like every chapter in this game. So
the sense of humor is maybe.
Yeah. So you've got 7 primary skills: unarmed combat, armed combat, stealth, concealment, negotiation, first aid, piloting. Everybody's got those. Often you'll see like armed combat guns or like piloting like something specific, but that's just specializations. It talks about slot costs. In character creation, it's some classes, very few, will give you skill slots. Very few will give you more than 1, I should say. You can also spend 10 cool points or 10 ghost points, which, remember, are cool points, but they go away after character creation, which is cool because we still haven't really defined what cool points are. You can spend 10 cool points to get an additional skill slot, and most skills can be purchased for 1 slot. Some skills require 2 or more. You do have specialization. Specialization applies primarily to combat skills. All of this section here deals with combat skills specifically, and not with anything else. But you get for 10 points, you can specialize in a particular type of weapon or a particular color of magic. Being able to specialize in a color of magic is crazy broken. We'll discuss that more when we get to spells, but being able to specialize in an entire color of magic, it gives you an awful lot of flexibility and a huge bonus. The next level, +2, it costs 20 skill point or 20 cool points. +3 is 30, and so on and so forth. Unarmed combat, you can specialize in. Once you get to martial arts or higher, you get a +2 specialization bonus on any melee weapon you specialize in. So if you decide you want to specialize in swords, instead of a +1, it automatically goes to a +3. Because, you know, fuck you. I guess martial artists are just better at everything.
I mean, that's how that works in a place that has magic.
Yep. You can specialize in non-combat skills, but it just bumps your rating up by 1. Or sorry, by 2.
In total fairness, it is a refreshing change from the, like, magic superiority that we constantly see.
Oh, don't worry. Magic is also fairly good in Chaos. I will say this. At low levels, guns keep pace really well with magic. It's not until you get to the higher levels that magic just starts completely outclassing anything else that you can do.
Okay, I have a question. If everything is broken, is it really broken? So I mean, like, if everybody is more or less equal with OP, doesn't that just kind of make everything balance out?
It would if everything was more or less equally OP, but that's not the case. Magic is way more OP than other types of OP.
Gotcha.
Skill ratings is just the number that tells you what to roll. You add it to your attribute level to figure out what your skill level is. Blah, 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 blah. Here's a picture of a medieval knight cooking at a campfire. I don't see what this has to do with this game, but it's kind of cool, I guess.
You're seeing a medieval knight?
I'm seeing a medieval knight.
I'm seeing, like, some sort of ogre.
No, he's got a beard and a nose and a hat, and I think this is like a glaive or a spear.
Sure, but is he wearing a shirt?
He seems to be wearing chainmail or tree bark. I'm not really clear on which.
Yeah. From my perspective, it looks like he's not wearing any clothes, and it's just sort of, oh, okay, I kind of see it. He's got sort of a shoulder thing going on there that's like a, oh god, it's not a shawl, but you know what I mean.
Honestly, I thought that the thing on the shoulder was hair. This is not one of the better pictures in the book.
Well, I actually really like this picture, but I think it was from a different artist, because, like, the tree roots here looks super organic and good, and the character is there. It just needs to be fleshed out. Like, it just was sort of hastily sketched.
Yeah,
like, I'm seeing a lot of, like, really good, like, depth of field in here, and, like, scale.
That's true, and that's something that you don't see a lot of in these Chaos art pieces, is a lot of depth of field. Anyway.
Like, this feels like a really good, like a really technically sound drawing. I mean, there's a lot of detail that needs to be put in, and it needs to be...
Yeah.
It needs love, but you can see that somebody really had a vision, and it looks nice. I like it. I want to sit at the fire and eat whatever mystery meat that is.
Yeah. I just wish that we could figure out exactly what it was supposed to be a picture of. Anyway.
It's a guy doing stuff.
So, once again, we get told about maximum continuance, which is a really stupid way to say that dice explode. And the rule of 1, which is a really cool sounding rule, but it sucks. And there's a little bit of clarification here, because remember earlier we were not clear on whether you had to roll all ones or just a 1. It specifies here, anytime a character rolls a 1 during the skill checks, it starts to suck. Rolling a 1 is a fumble. All ones on your skill dice would be considered a botch.
Okay, and what's the difference?
That is never explained, but it does specify that rolling any 1 on any of your dice is a fumble, so presumably that's an auto fail. I've never heard of a fumble not being an auto fail in a game. Admittedly, I'm extrapolating.
I would also say that there's things in this game that I've never heard of anywhere else.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm like I said, I am admittedly extrapolating here based on knowledge of other games, including the games that Chaos is ripping off of. But I'm assuming that a fumble is an auto fail. And it does say that it starts to suck, so like, I mean, presumably something bad happens.
I don't know if a fumble would be an automatic fail, because what's the other one where it's all ones?
A botch.
Yeah, isn't that one clearly an automatic fail?
Again, I really wish that he had specified what these terms mean, because like they're used fairly interchangeably in a lot of games, and for here it just says that a botch means something real bad has happened. So my interpretation of this would be rolling a 1 is an auto fail, rolling all ones is auto fail plus a negative consequence of some sort in game.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
But then he muddies the water further by saying Jack is trying to climb from the 14th floor to the 15th floor. He has the climbing skill at 2d6 and he rolls 2 1s. Suddenly he finds himself falling 14 stories. Does this mean that he only fell because he botched his climbing roll? Like, if he had failed the climbing roll, just rolled one, like a 1 and a 2, how would that...
I think the idea is that if he had failed, he just wouldn't have made the climb.
Right, but that does...
Climb. Maybe he got halfway up and got tired and realized he wasn't going to make it, so he climbs back down.
Well, what's the odds of rolling 2 1s on 2d6? That's like 1 in 36.
Okay, sure.
So on a 1 in 30, one time out of 36, he fails the check and falls, and the rest of the time he just fails to advance and suffers no consequence.
I mean, to be totally honest, that's fairly realistic. Like, I don't know about the odds being realistic, but like, yeah, a lot of times you are just gonna fail at something, in real life with no real consequence other than, hey, you fucked up.
I mean, that's fair in real life, but for...
No, I'm not saying that games should be reflecting that type of, like, consequence design, because the emphasis should be, I think, more on fun.
Yeah.
And, like, if that's how you want to play the game, that's totally valid. But I think it's a mistake to go more realism at every possible, like, instance at the expense of, is this actually enjoyable?
I would argue that if the consequence of failure for any check is that it just wastes time at the table and it doesn't impact the story one way or another, then
it's a waste of time.
Don't fucking roll. Like, now if there was a time crunch, like you have to get to the top within, X rounds or a bomb blows up, then yeah, roll, because it matters whether you succeed or stay put. But like outside of that kind of a scenario, if there's no negative impact on your character, then there's no reason to check. But
in fairness, I mean, I've rolled checks in games with you that were like, roll perception, and it was like, okay, you see nothing.
Yeah.
Like, nothing in the room, move on.
But
and there never was anything in the room.
I mean,
and even if we'd succeeded, there still would not have been anything in the room.
That is fair, but that is me using the rules to not give away, by the non-presence of a check, the fact that there is nothing. It
would have been different if it was, you roll for perception, you don't see anything. Roll for perception again, you don't see anything.
Yeah.
Roll again, you don't see anything. Over and over and over again when there's nothing to see.
Right. Yeah, it would be different if you keep having to roll every, like, 10 feet or so when there's nothing in the room.
That's fair. Also, I roll perception a lot. Well,
Yes.
I don't. I just make other people do it.
No, when you do it,
I play characters that are kind of dense.
when you have to do, like, a check like that over and over again, it just brings back Tomb of Horrors. And
Oh, yeah. God, Tomb of Horrors.
Oh, God, Tomb of Horrors was so great. We mostly lived with, like, extremely little hand waving. Extremely little, I think.
Yeah, but there was some. Anyway, moving on. It does identify how difficulties and target numbers work, which is something that we've already learned. The GM does not have to let the players know what the target number is on checks if they don't want to. As a matter of fact, the GM doesn't have to do blank. Self-censoring, again. But that's cool. The DM doesn't have to do anything.
Alright, yeah, that's the attitude that makes good DMs.
Yep. And now we get the expanded attribute and skill level chart. This isn't even all of it. It continues going. All the way to level 316.
Specifically 316.
Yes, specifically that. And
before the latest installment of the anime Bleach, they had 366 episodes. That's a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
I'm very familiar with what 316 actually means.
Yeah. It's a lot. And remember, for attributes, right around here is going to be the max that you're going to hit out the gate. Like, with racial bonuses and all that shit. Like, maybe you raise it up to 25 over the course of the game. Over the course of the entire game, you might hit like 25, 26, maybe even 30 in an attribute or skill. The chart goes to over 300. At which point you are rolling 14d20 plus 2d6. I don't even own 14 d20s. If you want to contribute to my d20 fund, please contribute to my non-existent Patreon by dumping $20 into the urinal behind the men's room, or in the men's room at your local Walmart.
It's got to be a Denny's.
I was gonna say Arby's. I think we all went for a completely different shithole place to be.
Anyway.
Also, see, this is why we're friends. I was able to make a reference to like a really mainstream anime that didn't actually make a lot of sense, and nobody made fun of me.
That's true.
Really a missed opportunity, though.
Yeah, it kind of was.
I thought you were just talking about 300 different varieties of actual bleach that you drink.
Remember, too...
No. There's only like 12 actual different flavors of bleach. No.
Remember, too, 14d20 plus 2d6. And if any of those 16 dice land on a 1, then you auto-fail your check.
Oh, damn, that's awful.
Yeah, you just now figured that out?
Shit. Oh my god, that's so bad.
It is. Remember that there's a 1 in
so
20
bad.
chance on any given d20 roll that it'll be a 1. So rolling 14 of them, like basically one check in 2 or one check in 3 is going to fail.
No, and you're supposed to be like godlike according to this like.
Yes.
Oh god. And we get it, dude. You understand how dice progression works. That's cool. Thanks for sharing. I kind of want to screenshot this one page just to use for like the rare circumstance that I would ever need to know this off the top of my head for like dice progression, but I just don't see ever needing to use it.
Yeah. You never would. You never would.
Fairness,
The
it does please my dice goblin brain to consider rolling 14 d20s.
Oh yeah, everybody wants to roll 14 d20 plus 2d6 because rolling lots of dice makes the happy
Everybody
chemicals.
wants the mega tumbler full of dice that you just toss on the table and then grin at everybody there and go, read 'em and weep, gentlemen.
You really, though...
You just got a straight flush in poker.
You really did not need to go beyond 36, though. Like, the rest of this chart is just ridiculously extraneous.
Like, and it's weird because the thing is if I hadn't, unfortunately playtested this on the recommended first, example thing that they gave us to do, I would be like, wow, okay, so maybe level progression is a little faster and looser. Maybe it happens, quicker. No, it doesn't.
No.
It doesn't.
It does not.
It doesn't at all. It happens exactly as fast as it does in, say, D&D.
Yep. It's...
If not slower, given how often you'll die.
Yep. That's excruciating could be applied to a lot of this game. Also, it's really bothering me that there's a solid line dividing the left-hand column from the right-hand column, and it touches the line on the left.
Oh, thank you.
And
it's been killing me that the way they aligned this.
Yeah.
Like,
also, there's a little gap.
Excel.
There's a little gap here too.
Oh God. Yeah, I just thought that was an artifact from no, that's legitimately on the page.
Yeah. This is a digital copy from a digital document. There's no artifacting in this, except for in images. God. That was designed that way. They just fucked it up. It's obnoxious.
This makes my heart sad.
Yeah.
You could have put that in Excel and just highlighted the lines, and also the differing line thickness is driving me nuts.
Yeah.
Now we gotta move on. The more I look at this, the worse it is.
Yeah, let's move on.
Still in Comic Sans.
Yeah.
Yep. And
because that's the clearest, best way to represent numbers.
Here is the target numbers for your skill checks. Notice that effing impossible is 20 or higher.
I mean...
20 or higher.
Level 50? At level 50, you're hitting 20 or higher no matter what you do.
Yeah. 14 d20 plus 2d6,
you can't help but hit 20.
Yeah. He made a ridiculously big chart that takes into account skill levels into ridiculous numbers, but then
basically says don't bother rolling, you're fine.
Yep. And actually not rolling is better at high level for the aforementioned reason that you will fail increasingly more often the more dice you roll.
What is, it's weird because now it's okay, cool, you're just an unholy space badass. Good luck tripping over yourself at every instance.
Yep. I think I once put it that the gods of Chaos 6010 are so powerful that they can't do anything at all.
That's amazing that you said that. And also, I really like the idea that there's some sort of deity or something going on that just said, hey, you know what? You're so powerful now that we're not going to let you win at things in case you come and kill us all. Or, alternatively, the headcanon of, you're so good at everything that you do, your arrogance is now a permanent flaw.
Yup. So, here's rules on skill advancement and training. They're pretty standard stuff. Training time, 2 fucking years. Training time of 2 years if your intelligence is less than a 7. And look at this shit. On 18 intelligence, the maximum that a human being can get still takes you 6 months of training before you can learn a new skill. Ugh, ridiculous. And then you got the unarmed combat chart. You get basic +1, fighter +2, fighter +3, which is 3 unarmed actions, then martial arts +3, which doesn't increase your bonus any, at which point you gain chi powers, and then at martial arts +6, you get to make a choice. Do you continue with martial arts +7? Yes. Or do you go to Gun Fu? No. Gun Fu allows you to use your bonus on defense rolls against armed attacks, which is good, but your martial arts caps out at +6.
No.
Also, there is a rule where you can make a parry attack if you roll a natural 20 on an unarmed combat or something like that, which
Okay,
I'm not seeing
I
here.
ironically love the concept of gun fu, but it's unusable.
It's not very good.
I really appreciate I appreciate everything about it. The name, the flavor of it, the idea. I'm like, yes, I want my martial artist to suddenly be able to wield a couple of 6-shooters for no reason.
Oh wait, any natural 20 roll to defend while using Gun Fu will cause the attacker's gunfire to either hit themselves or a nearby party member.
Oh my god.
Okay,
So
never
you're
mind.
putting
Gun Fu
the
is
bullets
cool.
Out of the air into the enemies. That's amazing.
Yep. And the enemy does not get a chance to defend against it.
So never mind. That's actually awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, shoot. We are out here tasting the martial artists
Yep.
because that's what flavor means.
And here we have a picture of a Mudai who looks like he's straight out of Dark Sun, enchanting a blade before a battle. That's actually kind of cool. What?
Why does he have a man catcher?
Why wouldn't he have a man catcher? Because man catchers are cool.
Least useful and most highly specialized pole arms.
Oh, Meph's volume is low? Here,
Yeah, she's a little low.
let me pump that up a bit. Okay.
Was
And
Mep's volume better?
Yeah, you're better now.
yeah.
Why are you saying that? You didn't know.
Well, I'm an idiot.
You're louder now.
You're louder now.
Okay, it's great. That's what everybody wants, is for Meph to be louder.
Yep. Martial artists get chi if they're above a spirit of 8, which is not difficult to hit. And then you can use your chi to summon energy, cause greater damage. This is weirdly phrased. The martial artist rolls a d6 to find chi drain. They call out that they wish to throw chi into the attack when they make their attack roll. This allows an extra d6 to the damage of unarmed or specialized melee attacks if they hit. So basically...
So, it's magic.
Yeah, basically. You can add 1d6 to your melee or unarmed, and then it costs you d6 chi. And yes, shoot, that is the goal, is to spend more time reading the rules than actually playing this, because the rules of this game are unplayable.
This is also the 5th time, probably, that you've done a review of this in one form or another, and every single time it's been like this.
Yes, and every time we find something new.
It's incredible. It's a really magical experience. I'd say it's fun for the whole family, but it's not really fun for anyone. By the way, shoot, maybe at some point I'll bring back the God King voice, but you know.
Yeah, maybe.
For now, this one's a little easier on the ears, I think.
Oh, and remember this. Any character that has sex in the game is reduced to 0 chi. Drugs, intoxicants, and narcotics have this same effect. It becomes difficult to channel chi when your mind and body are not aligned. You could channel chi if you knew how to focus it, such as a drinking skill, drunken style fighting. I don't think that such a skill exists, for one. And for two, that's great to know. How often are characters scoring in this game? Like,
I have so many things to say at once. I'm having trouble choosing which one to say first.
yeah.
Okay, so there is sort of a drunken style of fighting, but it doesn't actually require you to be drunk.
Oh, no. Drunken style kung fu is meant to simulate being drunk. The idea being that an opponent shouldn't know whether you're actually, like, really good at kung fu or just a really fucking lucky drunk stumbling around. And, like, it's a lot of surprise hits.
It's very unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you know, in theory, it's fairly good. In practice, I don't know. I just don't know enough about it to know if it was ever really used a lot or if it was a real thing. I don't know.
As far as I know, yes. Drunken style kung fu is a real thing that was really used. I mean, it's fairly specialized, and it's not like... If an opponent goes into a fight knowing that you're doing drunken style,
You're toast.
Then they automatically have a bit of an advantage on you, because drunken style is intentionally sloppy. Like, if they know that you're faking it, then I would imagine that it would be a lot easier to counter it.
I mean, in fairness, I will argue that anybody that is skilled in martial arts and familiar enough with other styles, even if they don't practice them, would be able to tell the difference between a feint and not. If you can't tell the difference, bad things happen.
I mean, that's fair.
So you would be specifically trained to, you know, be able to tell when something is realistic or not. Then again, maybe you're just super good with your drunken poker face or whatever. I don't know. I will note, however, that I like the 2 points here that, for one, having sex completely drains all your chi, and then this is because your mind and body are not aligned.
Yep.
Like, I'm pretty sure that when you're getting laid, that's one of the few times where your mind and body are completely aligned.
I mean, one would hope.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully.
You don't often have...
You don't often lay...
Just, like, scrolling your phone and waiting for it to be over, but, you know...
You don't often lay there and think you must construct additional pylons.
I mean, speak for yourself.
That's me every time. Anyway, yeah, it is a hell of a thing. Here are the different types of armed combat. You get melee, dual melee, which costs 3 skill slots, and that allows you to use 2 weapons at the same time. You get 1 extra melee action or attack.
Whoa, I have to interrupt you. Look at the caption underneath the picture.
Yeah.
First of all, there's a caption underneath that picture.
Yes.
Second of all, it's not in Comic Sans.
Oh my god, you're right. That's like, what, Times New Roman?
Possibly, yeah.
Oh my god.
Damn.
Where's the Times New
a
Bastard?
readable font.
That is...
Designed to be read.
That is insane. And, like, honestly, the fact that random bits are not in Comic Sans just makes this seem even more amateurish somehow.
It's actually kind of jarring. I'm like, it took me a minute to kind of figure it out. At first I noticed, I was like, oh, it actually does have a caption explaining what's going on. That's cool. If only they put that on every other picture. And then in this case, and then I was like, oh, the font.
Yep. That is crazy.
I like that they use this decorative font that's really designed to have like a specific feel and be used sparingly for the whole thing. And just used that, a serif font, for one caption.
Yep.
You know, a font that is specifically designed to be readable in text blocks.
Yep.
Find something new each
my
time.
head hurts already, and we're like not even. We're barely half an hour into this stream. Anyway, you can have dual melee. You can have dual firearms. Both of them cost 3 additional skill slots, and you have to specialize in those before you can get the benefits of them. The rest of them are pretty normal: projectiles, throwing, heavy, etc. And then these are the rest of the primary skills: stealth, concealment, negotiation, first aid, piloting. Is that the last known photo of, like, the bad guy from Batman Beyond?
I love this photo.
It's like,
I love this picture so much. I
fucking-
love that it looks like somebody took a photograph of a painting on a canvas.
it does kind of look like that because of the weird grain on it.
Yeah, oh my god, I love this so much. It makes me, like, it's not at all in the same style of, Junji Ito, but it gives me that vibe.
It's definitely... It definitely feels off to me, and I kind of love it.
Dude, you are misunderstanding us. This is genuine. Like, I love that picture. I would put that on my wall. It's like, for real. It's very weird. It's like there's so much to try to figure out about it, but it still feels like it's capturing motion and something. There's something to interpret there.
Yeah.
That is actual art.
And
Like,
I
that is
love
real
the
thing.
clouds, by the way. Like, unironically. The clouds in the background look just really awesome. It gives me this vibe of, like, something weird cresting over a hill that you caught a glimpse of at night, like, over a hill rise or something. And you snapped a photo of it, and, like, nobody will ever believe you. It's like a cryptid sighting.
I knew that's why you liked it, because it looks like a cryptid.
But it does. It's so cool. I love cryptids.
I like the bony forearm that's probably supposed to be a firearm of some kind, but it just sort of looks like a skeletal, like, arm from the elbow down.
That's legitimately what I thought it was. So
Yeah, but, like, I mean, we haven't seen a lot of skeleton men as race options, so...
oh, they're
what
in
do you guys
here.
think of?
Like, they're not playable, but there's a lot of skeleton men's in space.
I mean, that checks out, I guess.
So here we go. Secondary skills. We're going to kind of go over this quickly because there's not a lot worth pointing out. You have cultural skills. These are almost entirely roleplay only skills that have no mechanical function. Architecture. Like, wait, architecture? Why?
Look at sports!
Why?
It's sports! It's so sarcastic!
Okay, ignoring architecture for a minute because that just raises so many questions. You got, like, acting, art, cooking, dancing, drinking. There is a drinking skill. Well, that's great. None of these skills actually do anything. Except for storytelling. This can be used to gain reputation, which I think was...
No, sports and writing both have them too.
Oh, do they?
And dancing has dexterity. Look at that little thing at the end.
No.
Architecture is intelligence. Acting is charisma.
No, this is... The dancing says it may be used to impress others, but it doesn't actually have any rules for doing that.
Oh, I see what you're looking for. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but, like, I'm sorry. The flavor text for sports, great. You're good at sports. And then it proceeds to list the most meta sports I have ever heard of.
Kill ball, blade hockey,
Blade hockey.
Doom Rider. At some point, it mentioned a sport called, like, kill the man with the ball.
I need to know, like, wait. I feel like that was in some short story that I read in high school, but I can't place it at all. Anyways, blade hockey. I need to know more about blade hockey because generally the blade part of hockey is they're on your feet.
Yeah.
It's part of the thing. So, are they putting more blades on you?
I'm assuming that
on your elbows and your feet.
I'm assuming that your hockey sticks are bladed and you get to use them on other people.
I mean, yes, that was another thing that occurred to me. Is, are you now playing hockey with like an L-shaped sword?
Yeah.
Which is also really awesome.
Yeah.
Does the puck have blades too? Is it
Oh, that would be cool.
Chakram, just a chakram running around. Oh my gosh! And you would have to make it like a levitating puck. It would have to be anti-grav because space.
And we might as well just turn this into rollerball too. Like put everybody on rollerblades.
You know what? We'll just throw some Tron bikes in there because why not?
Yeah. Magic and mystic skills.
Ever heard of?
Moving on to magic and mystic skills here. These surprisingly all useful-ish. I mean, it's not as good as actually having magic, but they all have actual stuff that they do.
Let's move on from the fun back to the slog.
Yep. Battle chant, for instance, you make a skill check every round, and that's how much chi or mana you regain. So you can basically spend like 5 or 6 points per round indefinitely, which is part of what. Go ahead.
Sorry, in the previous section, I don't like that they didn't include like romance. They had architecture, but they didn't have like.
Oh, don't worry.
Hating.
It's coming. That's still in here.
Never mind. I take it back. I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't want it.
So, lots of magic skills. They're useful-ish. Medical skills. The only one that you want is paramedic. Biotech. First aid. Which is a primary skill? Yeah, first aid is a primary skill. Biotech adds to the hit points regained from first aid. So if you have the points to keep up 2 separate skills, then that's good. Otherwise, they suck. A lot of navigation skills that you'll never use because GPS is a thing in this setting. And here we go with physical and miscellaneous skills. Animal kinship. Begging. Oh, and blind fighting and blind shooting, 2 separate skills, and you need to have these if you have blindness as one of your character defects or whatever they call them. These cost 2 skill slots each.
Yeah, I gotta say, of all the possible things that I could be using as a skill in order to raise money for my monk church, not temple.
Oh yeah.
Not training ground or dojo or anything interesting. My church.
Well, remember that in this setting.
The first thing that comes to mind.
Remember that in this setting, monks are both Eastern style martial arts Shaolin type monks and also Western style Gregorian religious monks. Yeah. Simultaneous.
I just can't help but think how much cooler it would be to be somehow putting on like displays of martial prowess or anything because nothing says hero like standing on the streets with your hands out. I mean, in fairness, that is potentially a good 20% of just trying to find work in D&D, but like, it doesn't really shake out to literal begging.
I would just like to point out, too, that begging takes a few hours. Looting does the exact same thing, but doesn't require a few hours.
Yeah, so you could beg outside of your local space target, or you could just go inside and riot.
Yep.
And literally the same thing, but one takes much less time.
Yep.
Neat.
So, game.
Oh god. Yeah, of course they called it game.
Yep.
Oh,
This is not a gambling skill. This is a skill to seduce characters of the opposite sex, or the same sex if they both swing like that.
I mean,
It's just representation.
Just say seduce other interested characters.
Yeah.
You could just say that. You could just say that. The rest of those words were not needed.
The best
But,
part,
you know,
the
rest
best
of this whole game, the rest of those words were not needed.
the best part is that it runs off of charisma and not physical beauty, which is the skill that determines how attractive you are to potential mates.
Oh my god, look at that skull.
I know.
Skull picture. There's a caption.
And it's
not Comic Sans.
and it's Times New Roman again, but this time it's in italics for no reason.
Well, I mean, that's normally what you would do for something that has a caption, is you would make it in a slightly different font.
Yeah.
Or you would make it, you know, have a different style so that people can tell, hey, that's a caption.
Well, they did that. Except that
they finally did it. Page 94, and they finally did it.
They finally figured out some basic stuff.
Oh, look at that! Look, they figured it out there too. And that's weird. Are those supposed to be the teeth? Oh my god, I hate that. I hate that. Oh, I hate that so much. That's the worst thing I've ever laid eyes on. Oh my god.
I like the weird rune writing that he's got above it.
You said they were tongues.
Yep.
And those are not tongues. Those are horrifying, twisty tusk teeth.
I guess they could be. I don't know.
It says skull, which implies that this is just the bone structure. I hate that.
Here's a skog symbol meaning to die with honor in the sky. That's a really complicated symbol for like there's a couple of words in there.
Yeah, all I could think of was that one, the Next Generation episode.
Yeah.
It's a meme, guys. You just gotta get it.
Yep.
That's what this is. This is the SCOG equivalent of a meme.
I do like that their xenobiology skill is called alienology because Brandon Williams Rogue doesn't know what xenobiology is.
Amazing. I like how alienology. Oh, it's because they're different. They're differentiating between xenosociology and xenobiology.
Oh, is that what they're doing?
Because the word is alienology, and then it talks about understanding alien and native creatures, and talking about their special abilities in nature, and that never mind. You're absolutely right, and this is just dumb. I totally thought that they were I skimmed that paragraph, and I totally 100% thought they were talking about like sociocultural stuff versus like their bodies, and I don't understand why there's biology right underneath it if they're the same thing.
Yep. Technical and survival skills. There's not much to say here because there's not much that's going to surprise you. Computer costs 2 skill slots. That's a little crazy. But it's very standard stuff. And here's a SCOG symbol meaning weapon.
Neat.
I just want to see here. Does that... No?
The SCOGs were real big on finger painting.
Yeah, they really were. And here we've got languages. It talks about how many languages you get. And here's the names of the different languages that these.
What?
Yes.
Why aren't they like? If these are supposed to be written as something that we would understand, then like, why does each race and each language for the race different like that? Like, we've got human, and then we've got earthen.
Yep.
Like, could just say that humans are earthen and speak earthen. Like, you could do that. You could say that humans speak common, that there's a common language that they speak. But no, earthen, because suddenly all of Earth, every human speaks only one language.
Yep.
It is kind of cool that they included sign language on here for a couple of races, though.
Yeah, that is cool. I like some of these names for some of these other races, like Echu Fingi
Wow.
or Bagoosh.
We're gonna work that one into regular
I'm really
rotation.
enjoying that one race is Thok, and the language is Ezitha now.
Yep. You remember the
Yeah.
Thok? They're the dragon guys.
Yeah. Bad guy Blubs. Wait, were these races that we actually went over? Did we go over the Feason Tai?
No. These races down here, under the outer races, these are non-playable races that we haven't looked at yet. We don't have any idea what any of these things are.
Neat. Our first introduction to it is a list.
Yep. And I have really high hopes for the Begablub. Like, that's gotta be cool because its name is lame as shit.
I'm also kind of upset that none of them speak Ubby Dubby.
Some of them come close.
Echu Thingy comes pretty close for me.
Yeah.
Same vibe.
Okay. And combat. Let's keep going. We'll fight after the battle. That's almost a joke.
Ha ha.
Yep.
Alright, I am going to step away for the briefest of minutes.
Okay.
I'm sure that you can suffer through the next
Yep, I will.
ungodly.
I
Oh no.
I
Some
will.
of these paragraphs are left aligned, and some of them are centered
Yep. Yep.
on the same page.
Yep.
Hate it. Hate everything. Oh my god. I might not come back.
Okay, so initiative is a D10 roll. Not much to that. And then you add whatever bonuses from dexterity. The fact that it's D10 and not D20 means that dexterity bonuses count for a lot more than they otherwise would, because you're dealing with smaller numbers. But whatever, it's pretty standard. It finally clarifies that attacks are 20-sided die rolls, not like your other skills. And it talks about combining actions and attacks. So basically, you'll have like 2 unarmed, 2 arms, and like maybe even 2 magic, whatever. When you use one action, it uses up 1 from like every category, regardless of what it is. So like shooting a gun once and then throwing a punch is 1 armed and 1 unarmed action, and that would be equal to 2. So like unless you had 3 actions of some type, your turn would be over. You can move during your attack. It counts as an action, which is stupid. Let's see here. Rage attack. Using melee weapons or unarmed combat. It's 2 actions. Deals double damage. There's no reason to do this unless you can stack additional multipliers and bonuses onto that attack. Otherwise, you're probably better off with 2 chances to hit. You can't do a rage attack with a gun, for anyone who asked that stupid effing question. Why that's a stupid question, I don't know. There doesn't seem to be anything inherent in melee weapons that makes it capable to do a double damage attack that a gun can't. But when you rage attack in melee or unarmed combat, you can hit 2 enemies that are right next to each other with only 1 attack roll. Okay, I take it back. There's no reason to not do rage attacks. As long as you've got 2 enemies next to each other, you should always be doing rage attacks only. And it gives you double damage against 2 targets. On a critical, you get ×2 damage. It does stack with the ×2 power damage. Because you've got different types of multipliers in this game. And critical hits multiply your body save ×2 against the attack. So if you have a thing where it says you got to make a body save of 16 here, it becomes a body save of 32 to pass it. It says it's still possible to do this, which it is because of exploding dice, but like in practical terms, it's not. It's just not going to happen.
I like how they included sections for Fumbled Roll, but still without fully explaining how Fumbled Roll works.
Oh, here they do for combat only. On a roll of 1 on a d20, when attacking, you fumbled. Then you get to roll on this chart, depending on what you were doing. Unarmed combat gets the least bad options, where you can actually accidentally hit yourself for half damage. If you were doing melee damage, potentially a magical weapon break can cause 2d6 times 10 damage in a 15-foot radius. 15-foot diameter, so 7.5-foot radius. Armed combat, shoot for full damage, jam, or a weapon break that causes d6 times 10 damage, or if it's an energy weapon, 2d6 times 10 in a blast radius.
These are horrifying consequences that you would regularly have to anticipate.
Oh, are you figuring that out?
And, you know, good luck with not dying. I mean, how much HP are we allowed to have?
It goes up from first level, but at first level, you're basically going to have in the area of like 10 to 12.
Yeah, so any of these could mean basically a wipe for the party, because somebody shot a party member and that, or something like that. Like, imagine that 2 people fumble on 2 different rounds.
Yep.
Not only do you not get to do the thing you wanted to do, you actually handicapped your own party.
And
terrible.
It is worse for you if you're using guns than if you're using anything else. If you're an unarmed fighter or a melee-only fighter, like a monk, then your chances of completely fucking over the entire party are greatly reduced. Magic is one case where this doesn't actually get... the mages don't get off better. Mages still have a horrible fumble chart of their own. And we'll get to that when we get to spells. It sucks, and there's more fumbles still to come. So, you know, keep that in mind. Frenzy. So, let's talk Frenzy, because this is simultaneously a really good idea and a really bad idea, mechanically. So, you have 2 Frenzy points to start with. You can spend a frenzy to take another action. So basically you have additional action points that you can use in a fight to get more shots off. You can burn up to, I think, 2 on your turn. Problem is, frenzy doesn't regenerate. And I think this is a mistake. Not that it's unintentional. It's fully intentional on the part of the game designer. But I think that it's a mistake on his part to do this. You have to spend cool points after the fact to buy frenzy, which is then used up in combat. So it becomes a cool point sink. Cool points are XP. This is how you make your character better, long term. And you're spending them to survive short term. I strongly recommend, if you were to play this, which I strongly recommend you don't, but if you were to play this, I strongly recommend that you make frenzy regenerate at the end of every combat, but make it more expensive to buy additional frenzy points. I don't have an idea for exactly what would be a fair cost for that. You'd have to playtest a bit to find out. But I think that would make frenzy much more usable, especially since, as we will see when we get to the test adventure, random enemies can have frenzy. So, and frenzy is used for some abilities too. So, that's always fun. It's just a lot of ways where it can sink your, effectively your XP.
Could you take a look at the quote on the bottom of the page for me?
Rage attacks stab him right between the face.
I like that peak humor for the author of this. Like, just absolute height of humor is somebody misspeaking from excitement.
Yep.
Like the silly things that you say at the table that are just a little bit silly and passingly amusing. That is peak humor, like quote worthy.
Yep.
Got it.
Here's some stuff about unarmed combat and melee attacks. It talks more about how martial artists are better than you and will always get special benefits. Nothing really exciting here. Armed attacks, it talks about burst fire, but it doesn't give you specifics. Here are the specifics. So, like, you can pretty easily get pretty ridiculous damage multipliers.
And remember, you can always accidentally shoot your party members right between the face.
Yep. And it doesn't say, if you're firing a burst, it doesn't say shoot just one time. It implies that you shoot them with the full burst. So yeah. Here we have a guy holding a gun to the head of a parrot man, apparently. That's a hell of a nose. I like what he was going for with this picture, but he didn't pull it off.
There's a lot going on there, yeah.
Here's various actions and how many actions it costs you in game. And if it says yes, it means you can spend frenzy to do that action. So you can't use frenzy to use first aid. Sure, why not?
But I want the frenzy first aid. Like, literally all I want to do is just spend my future XP on randomly healing people.
Here is attack modifiers. Lying prone on the ground is -1 defense. Unless you're lying down to fire, in which case it's +2 instead. Which applies? Both? Neither? Who knows? By the way, that's the only penalty for being prone on the ground. It otherwise never mentions it.
I know from personal experience that yes, laying prone on the ground, basically nothing. There's no difference. And it takes an action to stand up. It takes your move.
Yep.
So, like, you could stand up after being knocked on the ground, or for basically nothing, you could continue to lay there and actually get a +2 to your attack if you happen to be shooting at people.
Yep, to your defense, not to your attack.
Sorry, to your defense. So, like, honestly, there's literally no reason. Just shift just point your weapon. Now suddenly you get a +2.
Yep. And reloading is just 2 actions, blah, blah, blah. So, defense rolls. You can attempt to defend against melee and unarmed attacks. Here's stuff about cover and concealment. On an excellent defense roll, which is a natural 20, you get an immediate counterattack.
That's sort of cool.
That is sort of cool. If you roll a natural 1, you get to roll on the fumbled defense table.
Which apparently destroys your shit.
Yup.
Yeah, that's my favorite part about playing a game is constantly having my gear ruined.
Yup. And it's awesome because...
very hard to get.
Yup. And like left arm and right arm gear, it doesn't specify if that's equipment worn on the arm or if it's gear held in the arm, which is kind of important because you probably have guns or swords or something.
I'm going to go ahead and just assume that they mean whatever it is you're using to defend with. So, like, if you used your gun to block a sword for whatever reason, then that would be the thing that was affected. I would also point out that they just say cracked if magical for the first 2.
But not for any of the rest.
Yeah, so...
Implies that it will destroy magical boots and shit.
That sucks. That really sucks.
Yep. And so... now we talk about dealing damage. So, when you deal damage, you get the base damage of the weapon. Then you apply any power damage multipliers. Then you apply any combo damage multipliers. Then you apply any critical damage multipliers. Multipliers of the same type are added together. So, like, if you have a ×2 and a ×2, that's a ×4. Well, a ×2 and a ×2 is a bad example. Let's say ×2 and a ×1, that's a ×3. You just add them straight. But when you do multiples of different types, they are multiplied. So if you have a ×2 power damage, a ×2 combo damage, and a ×2 critical damage, that's 2 × 2 × 2, or ×8. That very quickly gets wildly out of control.
Yo, dog, so I heard you liked math.
Yup. A little armor always helps. That's untrue. Like, usually you're dealing with numbers that are so high that armor doesn't matter.
One thing that, I want to like the fumble system, which is so weird. Like, I kind of like the idea of there being this back and forth of, like, hey, there are these really serious consequences. Like, you aren't godlike. There is a chance that you could make yourself explode. I kind of like it, but at the same, it's just practically speaking, it's like, oh, you accidentally just killed yourself and your friend.
Yep.
In just a normal fight, like a random street thug just jumped you and you wanted to fireball him, and that did not work out for anyone. You killed, like, 2 innocents and yourself, and your party member is wounded, and you also missed the guy. Like, I like the idea of a fumble. I've always liked the idea of, hey, you know, you actually rolled so badly that, you know, fuck you a little bit. But this, it's just so harsh. It's so harsh.
Yep.
And it's not reflective of but this is a really harsh environment, and, like, you know, the consequences are very dire and real. It's not really like that. It's more like you're godlike except for when you aren't, and except for when you accidentally blow yourself up.
Yep. It's you're godlike unless you decided to do Keystone Cops routine this turn because the dice said that suddenly you turned into a blithering idiot. Like, one round you're taking down dozens of opponents, burning frenzy and being cool, and then the next round you're shooting your own party members because you're a fucking moron.
Yeah, you're basically a stormtrooper. Sometimes you're going to be incredibly awesome, and other times you're not going to be able to do anything competent at all.
Yep. So, speaking of not being competent at all, armor. Armor has 2 ratings, impact and ballistic. Impact is from melee attacks, unarmed attacks, that sort of thing. Ballistic is obviously from ballistic attacks. If you have toughness, you add toughness to both ratings. Armor ratings are usually so minor that they don't make a big difference. It gives an example here of an armored long coat with a rating of 2/6. The 6 is decent. The 2 is not. It won't make a lot of difference in terms of the amount of incoming damage. And especially at higher level, you're going to be taking hundreds of damage. And armor gets better, but it doesn't get that much better. If you take an amount of damage that exceeds your body attribute, you're knocked to the ground. And then you got to stand back up, which takes up half your movement. And then there's a possibility of falling off a ledge if you're knocked down next to a ledge.
I just figured out the vibe of this game is basically Borderlands.
Yeah, kind of.
I mean, there's magic for some reason. There's technology, kind of. There's a lot of guns. There's a lot of shooting. There's a lot of wild, random things happening, and some, like, slapstick nonsense. But I really wish that this was. I wish it was functional.
I think that the designer basically they played Warhammer, they played Palladium games like Rifts, and they were like, and probably played some Shadowrun too, and they were like, you know what, I like all 3 of these games, I wish that they were one game. And they basically just mashed the mechanics of all 3 games together.
You can, but, like, you have to pick the mechanics that actually work together.
Yeah.
Like, I like if you're going to have fumbles that are that harsh, then your players need to have really good armor options. You know, something that's going to offset that. They need to be incentivized to actually spend on things to protect themselves. So you wanted to go with something a shade, you know, harsh and grimdark, so you do have the possible ability of sabotaging yourself or your teammates, so everybody gears up. Everybody wears really good armor, not just because of the enemies, but because you yourself are a problem. That's fine. That can work. But that's not what happened.
Yep. Getting your ass kicked. This is a point where this game gets interesting because you start getting penalties at 2 hit points. But they get progressively worse as you go down. Notice, though, you have to be at -11 before you're at risk of actual death. And then you're dead if not revived within 2 rounds. And then there's a huge jump of -15 to -50 where you're dead if not saved within 1 round. You have to be more than 50 points below 0 to be killed instantly. And even then, you're allowed a spiritual influence roll. So it's really easy to knock people down in this game, but it's actually kind of hard to get people to die unless, you know, the party wipes. Which, spoiler alert, the party's going to wipe. But...
yeah. And it's not going to be a cool wipe where you're like, oh, we were fighting a dragon. Like a really big space dragon with laser eyes. No, you're going to be fighting some grunts.
Yeah, you're going to be fighting goons.
You're going to be fighting a trash can rat.
With each other,
yeah.
They'll kill you.
Yep. Trauma happens if you lose 90% or more of your max HP in one hit. You can make a body save to keep fighting, but you got to continue to make that save each round. We've talked before about how body saves are next to impossible to make. And you got to roll on the trauma table, which is not on this page, but it's coming up.
I roll the trauma table every day, baby.
And there's various things here about like special combat scenarios. Nothing real interesting. Fire attacks, ignore cover and shields, etc., etc., etc. Holding a hostage, knockout attacks, guarding. Like, a lot of this stuff is pretty standard for RPGs. We won't get into all of that. That's a cool picture. I originally thought that this was taken from one of the official 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons artworks for the Avenger, but it is not. It's not traced. It's an original piece of artwork, and it's cool. I like it.
It is cool.
The fact that it reminded you of something that you'd find in D&D book pretty much shows that this guy does have artistic talent.
No.
So.
And here's the disfigurement table.
Not graphic design talent.
No.
No. Graphic design is not his passion.
I mean, he's actually very clearly passionate about it. I just don't know if he's successful.
Here we have the disfigurement table for if you're attacked with like acid or something. So that's cool. Here's a penalty to physical beauty. That's pointless. Or here you can just be permanently blinded. Basically, if you roll a 65 or better, you're permanently blinded. So there's always a 35% chance that you're... 45% chance that you're permanently blinded by any given attack.
And oh look, you could just die.
Yep. There's a 1 in 100 chance that you'll die.
And it's confusingly explained because they start off with it joking and being like, yeah, that definitely didn't happen, and then being like, no, really, that totally happened, and you're dead now.
Yep.
So that's unhelpful. But also, I sort of do want to somehow end up with a like severely injured character at like level 243 or something that's totally blinded 3 times over, has blown themselves up 5 or 6 times, and has killed more party members than actual enemies.
That seems
like,
very doable.
This ridiculously grizzled like monk with just has no business even being alive.
Here's the trauma table. It gives you permanent stat penalties until they're healed. Oh, and look at that. Here's one that just instantly kills you. Here's one that instantly kills you with no body save.
Wait, I like the idea of somehow losing both legs at the hip and just having 2 peg legs.
Yep.
From the hip.
Yep.
So you're just walking around on, like, large chopsticks?
Wasn't there a guy from Jedi Knight who was like that? He didn't have
know.
he didn't have peg legs. He had a floaty disc body.
They did give Darth Maul the lower half of a body in Clone Wars.
Yeah.
Which was actually really badass.
David Lynch's version of Doom had a character that kind of floated. Big fat guy.
Yeah, that's actually in the book. Here's an example of combat, which I'm not going to read it through.
Yeah, that guy had, he had, like, anti-grav thrusters, like, on a belt around his tummy.
Yes, because he was so morbidly obese. Anyway, this is an example of combat. I'm not going to read through it. It's serviceable. Nothing exceptional about it. It doesn't play out quite the way that I've seen combat play out in the game, but, I'm no expert at it, so. Vehicle combat. Put your effing seatbelt on.
That was a real funny. I like that one. That like kind of it makes sense. It's topical. It's kind of cute.
Yeah.
The fact that we have to explain it shows how low the bar is.
Yep. These are vehicle combat rules. There's nothing particularly notable about this. There's an ugly picture of an ugly car here. And I don't know what the heck is going on with the paint job on this. It looks like it was painted in liquid mercury or perhaps oil. Anyway, all this stuff about vehicles.
There's an artistic...
Video is an important part of space aerodynamics.
Yep.
I don't know if there's that like high gloss like filter you can put over like pictures of cars to make them look racy.
Oh yeah, maybe it was that.
But then it's in black and white, so it loses all of that like high gloss sheen because the colors don't pop because there's no colors now.
Yep.
I think that's
just
what that
chrome.
Space combat here. He tries to go for a kind of Star Trek-y system where you can target individual systems on an enemy ship. It doesn't really work very well, and I'm not going to go too into it because, frankly, there's not much need unless you're specifically doing a space campaign. See here we talk about targeting enemy systems, modifier to hit, and what the average structural hit points are, which, as you can see, a lot for most spaceships. And that brings us to the chapter on magic. Stabbing you with a fireball or something. Brilliant. Just brilliant. So...
One of direct table quotes where people are just saying a silly thing.
Yep.
And that's peak humor.
So, magic is going to be a big section. Maybe not in terms of, like, the amount of time we devote to it, but, like, there's a lot of stuff we got to say about magic. These first few things are just going over, like, the history of magic in the world. Once mana is drained below 0, you can cast from hit points. It's 2 hit points for every mana point that you spend. That can be useful for emergencies. So, even being out of magic doesn't actually prevent you from using magic. Sorcery and conjuring are the two types of magic. We're really only going to be focused on sorcery. Conjuring is mostly in the abilities section and is broken as shit. Plus, there's no rules for most of what you summon through rifts and shit, so whatever.
I want to summon Mothman.
I think there are some that summon like weird, like monster shit that's not statted up anywhere. So yeah, basically,
Neat.
if you have less than a 9 spirit, you get a huge penalty to mana, and if you have less than an 8 spirit, you can't use magic at all. This talks about Astral Realm. The Astral Realm, also known as the Realm of Shadow, Purgatory, or the Void. Like, goddamn, pick a name and stick with it, man. It talks about, like, everything that exists there. It's kind of... We'll go over it more in the section on the afterlife and that shit. Not that the Astral Realm is the afterlife. It's separate, but functionally the same. So, sorcery. You get all these rules about range. Mystic tattoos, which you can just basically get a spell tattooed on you. How to learn spells, the different schools, ring classification. This determines what types of spells you're allowed to learn. Like, at level 1, you can only learn the initiate level spells. At level 3, you can start to learn advocate level, and so on and so forth. So, let's talk about the colors of magic. You've got red magic, which is combat-based. White magic, which is protection and healing. Blue magic, which is knowledge and divination. Green magic, which is nature, that's for druids. Gray magic, which is mental based. And black magic is necromancy. You can play as any types of these mages, and it shows you right here what their beginning spells are. The problem with this is that 3 of these colors of magic, red, white, and blue, are entirely based on the type of effect they create. Which is to say that red magic can only create harmful, destructive energies. White magic can only be used to protect and heal. Blue magic can only be used for divination. But then you get into the other 3, and those magics are not based on the effect that they create, but rather the source of the energies you're channeling. Green magic comes from nature. Gray magic comes from the mind and from the powers of illusion. Black magic comes from death and decay. And this is a problem because it means that green, gray, and black magic automatically are much, much more versatile than red, white, and blue magic. There is green magic that can heal you, and green magic that can harm you. But there's no red magic that can heal you, and there's no white magic that harms, except for, I think that they threw in some anti-undead spells in white magic, because of course they did. So, this is a real philosophical problem with the way this magic system is set up. Green, gray, and black magic are just so much stronger than white, red, or blue just by nature of being able to draw on effects from a broader range than what the other types of magic can produce. It's really ridiculous. Did you have something to say, Meph?
No, I'm just sort of processing.
Yeah, it's a subtle point,
So much.
but and it would be fine if they all were based on effect, or if they were all based on source, then there wouldn't be a problem. But this problem does exist because they're not all the same. They are split into 2 different types of like philosophical approaches to magic, and it just creates a huge imbalance in the way the game is played. Here are rules for different specialist mages. You can multi-class specialist mage. There's rules for that. There's rules for enchanting that I'm not even going to touch on because they're boring and because, frankly, you're not going to ever encounter them. Stuff about protection circles, meditation. Like, this is all very, very boring until you get to this part. The fumble rolls during sorcery. Because why not make the spell fumbles worse than regular fumbles? So you got a 16% chance that it's just going to have no effect. And then another 10% chance that it drains extra mana, but it doesn't do anything other than that. Then you have a 13% chance that the caster and everyone within a 15-foot radius become the target of the spell with no chance to defend. LOL.
Oh, God.
No. Possibility to be stunned. 4d6 times 2 damage to everyone within a 15-foot radius and stunned. Spell affect, it's effect, not affect in this case, blows up in the caster's face. Caster becomes the target of the spell. Gremlins of the spirit world rip through a portal and drag the caster into the astral realm without a chance to defend. The caster will have to battle the gremlins once they reach the spirit realm. There are always at least 2d6 gremlins. You can roll this at first level, and 2d6 gremlins against one opponent is a death sentence at first level.
I like the title of Magic Fumbling Table, I Feel Sorry for You, but then lo, that you have no chance to defend and everyone dies.
Yep.
There's a very, like, holds up spork feel to this. The idea that, like, anybody could die at any time. It's gonna be so fun. Everything is gonna be bad all at once. Isn't that great? And it's kind of like, I mean, there's a certain type of person that would enjoy this. I can actually think of a few players that would genuinely enjoy playing this game exactly the way it is. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. Don't worry, I didn't miss it. It's like, I don't know. Like, I would have to be thoroughly intoxicated, I think, to enjoy playing this as it is. And with the assumption that I actually get past the first level or two.
Yeah.
I would like to not immediately die, but then after that point, you know, as long as I have the full formal understanding that, like, yep, everybody is subject to random immediate death at any time, so don't get attached. Like, sure, I guess, whatever.
They've got some really interesting spells in here. I like Death Wrench. Spell turns a target's lung fluids into poisonous corrosive goo. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. Is that goo also potentially blinding?
It doesn't say, so it's not. Although, Acid Orb is. Acidic Orb reduces armor rating permanently if it hits. It doesn't say that it's disfiguring, but Acid is specifically called out as being a disfiguring type of attack. So, you know, there's that.
I mean, this is not exactly a creator that's known for their consistency, so it's very possible that it's totally fine for your goo ball to also disfigure. They just didn't include it.
Yep. The white magic, there's really nothing in here that is funny except for the fact that one of the spells is called Hard Flesh.
Hilarious.
Yep. Nice drawing down here. Very simple and straightforward, but I like it.
Oh, that's cute. Wall of electricity. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Why are there so many types of walls?
Because that's all white magic can do is walls. That's the only way that you can even possibly attack things. Like,
is throw up a wall and hope your enemy is stupid enough to walk into it.
Enormous walls, though. And just slowly crushing them between a firewall and an electricity wall.
Yep. Blue magic has nothing that you can't imagine it having. Like, it's all straightforward, just boring. Detect this, detect that.
It's kind of crazy that like the magic in this is the most robust and straightforward and like makes the most sense. When it's one of the most technically difficult things to do in game design, like to me. Yeah. Maybe other people are good at it, and this is supposed to be like actually really straightforward and not difficult. But in my mind, coming up with all the different things that you could do and like how that's organized and then the mechanics of that is super tough. But like it's hard to find fault with the magic system other than the fumble tables.
Yep.
Like it's pretty solid based off of what I can see.
I didn't mention, but I should, that most of the fire magic spells are going to do d6 times level in damage. Some of the higher level ones do like d12 times level. Apocalypse does 4d20 times your level, but like, you know, it's a high level spell. So magic scales pretty aggressively with level. But it takes a while for magic to catch up with guns, honestly. Because guns out the gate are doing like 4d6. So 3 or 4d6 easily. So magic needs to get up to like a level 4 or 5 before it starts to really come into its own in terms of damage. But when you get up high enough, magic damage is insane.
That's pretty standard though, honestly. That
True.
generally is like how it works, is caster superiority. All the caster superiority.
True. Gray magic has a lot of attacks that are mental based, which are harder to defend against. It's really the only thing about gray magic that's terribly notable. You do get telekinesis, so that's cool.
Telekinetic chaos. Hold on. Scroll up a little. Telekinetic chaos. It's at the bottom.
Yep.
The caster feels the whirlwind of telekinesis.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of neat. It's really cool. You could just sort of grab all the stuff around you and spin it around in a big circle.
Yep. And it doesn't list how much damage it does, and it probably should have.
Yeah, probably. It kind of makes you think that it doesn't do any damage at all, and therefore, what's the point?
Right. And black magic is all evil stuff, like explicitly evil. Let's see here.
Wow, you were not kidding.
Yeah.
The Curse of the Damned is messed up.
Yep. You get a body save. Otherwise, you become a ghoul.
Yeah. Like, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't immediately go with black magic, honestly. Some of this stuff is really crazy.
Yeah. It's, I mean, obviously, this is intended for bad
Like,
guys, but
sacrifice, a necromancer may sacrifice undead servants for... And then just take their HP?
yep.
Like, what?
Yep. Up to their maximum level.
Back magic. Oh, God. Can we get the rest of the joint magic too? Can we get like knee and hip magic? We don't really need that.
And here's just a quick cheat sheet on what the spells are at the different levels for each type of magic. And then there's stuff on conjuring. There's a bunch of steps involved.
That label bothers me also. No, the one that's up, the higher up, the one that's got all those empty spaces in it for like.
Oh
stuff.
yeah. They intentionally left spaces so that you could put in your own spells.
It's
but
not that. It's the line thickness.
Yeah, I was about to point out. Yeah, the line thickness. This line randomly being longer than all the other ones.
Some lines just not occurring.
Yup. It's pretty impressive in its incompetence.
It's crazy.
Yep.
Like, you can come up with like a really solid magic system, but you can't make a table.
Yep. I wouldn't call it a really solid magic system. I would say a really serviceable magic system.
Okay, well, you know, I'm sorry. My standards have been very much lowered.
That's fair. That's fair. So, you can conjure random spirits of the dead, so you can end up with like a god slayer or a demon slayer. And since it's random, you have to roll for it.
That's all I would do, is just roll to summon things. Is there any drawback to that at all? Is there anything that says I can't do that?
The drawback is that you might not be able to banish them or control them.
Okay. Alright, there we go. Because I was like, if there's nothing explicitly telling me that I can't just keep rolling to summon things, of course I'm going to keep rolling to summon things. I want to summon an Arc Death, whatever that is.
The steps are over here. I'm not going to go too much into the summoning system. It's broken as shit, but, like, you know. And there are no stats for any of these things, by the way. There's like, vague guidelines at best.
Vague guidelines at best. That's the best possible way to play a TTRPG.
Yup. And then we get into alchemy. Alchemy is stupid. What color blood? Like an icky color blood? Ha 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 ha. There's a fumble table for alchemy. There's a picture here that is definitely ripped off from a picture from Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition.
For a djinn?
What?
Is that supposed to be a djinn?
I think it's supposed to be a mage, because in the original picture there was a mage being lifted by a bunch of fairies, and I assume that it's something similar going on here. It certainly looks like it. There's wind, I think, going around him. I mean, I guess it could be like spaghetti noodles or something. And little...
That's canon now. It's spaghetti noodles.
little sprite things attacking him.
Sprites, balls, and spaghetti noodles.
Yep. Alchemy, most of this section is dedicated to magical loot, and it explains what all of this is. This is all stupid chart shit. I'm not gonna... And yeah, there's artifacts. Oh, and a blank random table in case we needed to fill in our own.
Yeah. Okay, like,
And
you would fill in your own, but like you wouldn't necessarily need to do it in this document.
yeah. And all of this is just additional magic item stuff that you could find potentially, but probably won't. And it goes on, as you can see, for quite a while. This is basically the treasure tables from the DMG in Dungeons and Dragons. It's just long and boring and not worth going over. So that brings us to weapons, and we're getting close to halfway done. We're 141 out of over 300 pages.
Oh my god. Everything you just said is the worst thing ever.
It'll start going fast, like this last few sections did. It won't be easier, but it'll be faster. I think we're gonna call it here, because I have a headache from this book.
You can only stomach so much of this at one time in one sitting.
You really, really can. It's so draining, and so much of this. There's good ideas. There's genuinely good ideas in this game, but so much of it is these boring charts and like huge lists, and I don't care. I don't care about this stuff. Like, give me something.
Even that having like overburdening charts and stuff is like just automatically bad. It's that do something, make this more useful.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to have a giant chart, okay, and what amazing thing is this giant chart doing for us that we're going to have this for?
Yeah.
Because it's a lot. It's a big thing to have made and invest in.
Like,
so,
why did you create like 100+ alchemy items in your game about shooting space orcs? Like, yeah, okay, you got magic. We need some magic items, but you don't need that many of them. Like,
and as always, we'll reiterate the fact that this guy did make a game.
oh yeah, absolutely.
He made a game. And most of us will never make a game.
Yeah.
I think you did a thing. Good job, you did a thing.
Yeah,
but
no.
Also, some of the choices you made in here should never have been made. Cough, cough. Racist races. And other things need more polish. But still, you did a thing.
Yeah. And again, there are genuinely good ideas in here. I really like a lot of the races in this game. I like the setting. It's actually kind of cool. I still feel that this book should have been subdivided into like 2 or 3 books, where the core book was about, kind of tooling around in Haven, and then have an expansion that deals with wilderness survival, have an expansion that deals with space stuff, and you could have shifted a lot of these rules over and made a punchier book. And
if you didn't want to go that route and have like more than one book, they could have done appendixes. They could have done expansions at the end. They could have been like, here's all of your core stuff, here's everything you need to play the game, and there's additional bonus stuff at the end.
Even if you wanted to include all of it in a single book, you could have grouped them thematically, saying, if you're going to run this kind of a campaign, here are the elements that you should use. And then save other things for other sections that are specifically, like, have a section about space and have space-themed races, space-themed classes, space rules, like, all of that shit. You don't need all of that stuff for what is 90% of the book.
I also would have liked to see things not being introduced for the first time in a random table.
Yeah, that would be nice if we like.
If there's like the non-playable races, it would have been cool if it had been mentioned earlier and more in depth that hey, these are your races. There are additional non-player races. They will be covered later.
Yeah, with maybe a sentence for description. Like
something to basically introduce the topic that this exists and it's a thing, and we've got plenty of like workable examples, and not just hey, randomly out of the middle of nowhere, here's just a table of stuff with no explanation.
Yep.
Just it's there. And languages of all things to introduce something on.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're gonna call her here. I'm gonna go have a drink or something. Shit. It has been a hell of a trip. I thank you guys for having the patience to stick with us and for watching this. I hope it's been entertaining and or informative. I like to think that even when this game is doing something wrong, it's doing something wrong in a way that we can discuss and learn from. And that it'll make it better in games in the future. And that's my genuine hope. So, thank you again for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you.
Bye.